All right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, and there is Jonas Siegel of The Athletic.
My guy.
What's happening?
Guy. It's great to see you. And I don't know about you two, but I didn't know that so many people out there, whether via X or just in person, they're National Hockey League contract specialists, because I have been inundated with what they should do, the Toronto Maple Leafs, as far as trades, contracts, and I just, not that I like hearing people out if they say, hey, why don't you give that guy this guy, and I run it through the engine once, and then I usually spit it out, and it's nonsense, a lot of Joe from the Bridge like takes, but it's just crazy, some of the thoughts of, it's totally mandatory that John Tavares and Mitch Marner, in a lot of people's mind, there's no life without them. There's nothing. You have to do it. And I'm like, you can do that if you want. It's not what I would do, but in their minds, which is good for the player because it means, I guess, popularity, production. I don't know. But there is a large majority of people that are like, you got to bring them both back. And I'm like, okay, I'm almost like taking a bow, saying that's it. That's what you want to do. Go ahead and do it, man.
Listen, we come on here every day and we talk and we have different opinions, and we've been doing this a long time. And there are times where you feel like you're with the majority. There are times where you feel like you're going against the majority, and there are times where you feel disconnected. And I think this is one of those. And it is difficult to get a real read on it. Like, the Maple Leaf fan base is so massive, and everyone's got a different view of this team and how they've gone through the history and how they've reacted to the history and how optimistic they might feel about the future. But I have been of the same belief. You know, the team was here long before these guys arrived. It'll be here long after they leave. They've won one playoff round.
I know.
Yet,
that's the King Daddy Topper where people don't really have the answers to it. I'm like, you do understand there's been 6 or 7, what is it? How many kicks at the can in the playoffs?
8. This will be 9. This will be year 9 with Matthews and Marner and Rielly. 8
kicks at the can, and one time they got to the second round and they got their ass handed to them. And I explained when I was getting my tattoo removal today, which was very painful. Thank you, Ben. I explained to him, if there was a bus that went to Niagara Falls every Monday, and every Monday it just went over the falls, like across the bridge, and it went over, it went down into the falls, would you get on it? No, you wouldn't, because every time it goes over the cliff and goes into the falls. So why would you want to attack something with the same personnel, the same thing every year?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
What set
you don't
this
like
off?
that comparison?
No, I love that.
Bus?
I love that.
Okay.
It's extreme, but I love it. What set this off? Like, what was the message you got where you're like, oh my God?
I just, everywhere I go, man, I love talking to people. Hazy knows this. Hazy doesn't like, he ignores people.
I agree with Hazy on this.
I like to, what?
You're a stop and chatter.
Yeah, he's a stop and chat handshake guy. He's a handshake stop and chatter.
I just like to get involved. I'm out and about. I got nothing to do all day. I start work at 4 o'clock, so I get involved in these conversations. And it just amazes me how many times it's like, well, you got to bring them both back. It's like, give them the Claude Giroux deal, give them 14 times 8, and I'm just like,
again, I do think there's a disconnect between maybe where we're at and where the general public feels, or how they feel. And I think, there's a Stockholm syndrome element to it, that this is all we've known now for 9 years, is these are the guys and they're going to get it done, and you have to believe it. And listen, when you're in the regular season, the comforts of the regular season is also there. It is time sensitive having these chats, right? Right now, they're sitting atop the division. Everything's rosy. Everything's awesome.
Yes,
everything's
great.
great.
Because they bought back in again that there's automatic success coming in a month and a half.
There's always concern, which is reasonable concern. Okay, how are you going to fill those minutes? Who's going to show up, and how are you going to build a team out to make sure that they're still competitive? And because the team didn't win anything before this core arrived, there's nothing you can reach back to and say, well, those guys used to do it like this, so at least we had that. There has not, Struddy was on here goofing on us yesterday. They haven't won anything in almost 60 years. So that is going to have a serious effect on the psychosis of a fan base. and the mentality of a fan base. And I think that all factors into it because I have sensed the same thing. Well, you got to do this, you got to do that. And it kind of drives into the conversation with what we're going to be dealing with between now and next Friday of what they have to do. Have to go get this guy. Have to get that guy. Have to be willing to trade this, that, or the other. I guess
that's the one word that I'd like to eliminate from all conversations is have.
Right.
You don't have to do anything. It's about, like, I'm in management here. That's where I want to win. And if I haven't won, like, why would I want to keep bringing the same core? Everyone talks about the salary cap and how your core guys that you decide to allocate the money to are so important. If they can't get the job done for you, and 2 of their contracts are up, why would you want to, at any length, bring them back for any term if it just doesn't work? Like, that's what that's what I don't understand.
Well,
I want Mitch Marner, if he wants to make 14, 13, 12, I really don't care. I hope he gets it because I think he's a great player. John Tavares, if he wants to get the Claude Giroux deal 3x7 somewhere, I hope he gets it. He's a fantastic guy. He's a fantastic player. I'm talking from, like, I manage the Leafs here, and it's like, if you're not winning, why wouldn't you want to get some different players? We're talking about this year plus 3 more with Auston Matthews being around, potentially.
Yeah, no, exactly. And listen, you can come up with a couple of examples off the ice, which is different, clearly, because 90% of what is going to happen in terms of the success is going to be based on how the players perform. Then you have coaches, then you have the organization, then you have the money, support, ownership, all that kind of stuff. And those numbers may fluctuate. Maybe it's 80%, maybe it's 70%, but it's a large majority. It's going to be on the, at the feet of the players. How are they going to perform? But there was some concern when, Sheldon Keefe was a very good coach that won a lot in the regular season. And Craig Berube has shown up, and it's worked out pretty well. They're in first place in the division, and they're playing well.
But it's like nobody could think outside the box saying, what would life be without Kyle? You're never going to know unless you pull the trigger on it.
But we have examples of it's probably going to be kind of the same. It's kind of going to be about the same. Like now, yes, does Tree Living look at it differently than Dubas does? Sure. And in different areas, yes. But it really doesn't feel that much different. With Brad Tree Living running the team compared to Kyle Dubas 2 years ago, it's not that different. And Craig Berube's implemented a new style. He's got a different vibe to him and different sound. But Sheldon Keefe wasn't an unlikable guy. He came out and spoke, and he loved being a Maple Leaf coach, and they had a lot of success. And, the team existed before Kyle and Sheldon got here, and they still exist after they've left. And it will be the same thing with all of these players. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a filtering in and a filtering out. Ideally, and I've always said this, I would love to see these guys fulfill the prophecy that we all thought they were here to fulfill when they arrived, that this would be the group. This would be the connection that would finally get them over the top and change it. And I hope that happens. But, if it doesn't again this year, I'm not holding my breath the Leafs will make a change because nothing in the past has ever proven that they would be willing to do that.
But how could you not? Hey, the change is a layup, right?
But we've said that every year. Like, there's no way they're going to bring it back after that.
But this time there is literally it's laying in your lap because
where their
contracts are expiring.
Yes, it is a little bit different.
You have to literally act to continue to do the same way. Whereas if you could sit back and say, maybe it's time you guys play on other teams and we get some different players.
Do you know what I think it is, Jeff? I think the separation is they're good players no matter what. But it's do the good players that they have work together to form a team that actually wins? And I think that's the separation that they haven't had. It's they've been these really good players.
So, Jonas,
but together it hasn't worked. You might be able to get
after that. The follow-up is: have you
seen
enough where you declared it doesn't work? Is this the year where you're going to decide that maybe it doesn't work, or maybe they win it this year? Maybe year 9 is when they do it. Maybe that could happen.
Sure.
Ideally, that happens. Yeah, and that's what the Leafs are banking on. And guess what? They're going to be given that opportunity. To their credit, they've never taken their foot off the gas during the regular season. They punch a ticket every single year and give themselves that chance. Is it worth what Florida just achieved last year? Obviously not. Would Buffalo take it in a heartbeat? Yes, they would. There is a reasonable middle ground where you say, you know what, these guys do collectively come together to torch the regular season every year for the most part and put themselves in a position to continue to have that opportunity to change their rep. And the legacy and all that kind of stuff. And they're going to get another one 2 months from now. Mm-hmm. And between now and next Friday, they're all connected. Like what they do at the trade deadline and what happens with Marner and what happens with Tavares, and is Matthews playing well enough where he's going to have a big enough impact come playoff time? All these things are on the table. And you get towards next week, and every day between now and next Friday, we're going to hear a different report of a different name, of someone else that's on the table, someone else that they should go for, something else they need to do. But we're going to have to wait to see if they actually pull any of it off.
Having said that, Jeff, they kind of have to do something, don't they? Like if they just came out of this deadline and they did nothing, you would Friday's show.
I think that would be a shock if they did nothing.
Right.
Yes, they're going to do something. It's a matter of what they do,
right, okay,
and what they're willing to pay, and whether or not they win that negotiation, in terms of the standoff with specific players that they might be trying to acquire.
I don't even care, honestly, if I'm the Winnipeg Jets, Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, I'm kind of tired of getting the guy, the Foligno, the O'Reilly, and it's the same results. So I'm at a point where I'm like, go get something lesser than that. Do some minor.
We did that last year. It didn't work either.
Listen,
I don't know.
The Nick Foligno, Brayden Schenn vibes are there. It concerns me a little bit.
Oh, and this is different. He's signed for 3 more years.
Right. It's a big commitment.
Sure.
It is a big commitment. And Brayden Schenn's a good player, good leader. He's won before.
The conversation.
I thought that Nick Foligno, when they brought him in here, he was going to be I loved his game in Columbus, up and down centerman, play every position. I thought he was the finisher, and he got hurt. He couldn't play.
And that obviously was big part of it, that he was injured and he just.
But he was injured a lot around that time. That was part of the risk.
Right.
You're right. Yeah. Would you do this hypothetical?
I was thinking about it last night. I was talking with someone about Schenn and how it should be viewed, because he's playing his 1,000th game tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a legacy name, especially in this city. The Schenn brothers, and this kind of dream is out there that they'll get both of them. Brayden and Luke will come back for a third time, and they'll play together, and that would be very, very cool to see. But I don't understand why you would pay the equivalent of 2 first-round picks for Brayden Schenn.
Mm-hmm.
Because from my perspective, if I'm St. Louis, I think the reason he's available is because they want the flexibility and they got to get off of it. They're not good enough. He's making too much money. And let's be clear what the Leafs are acquiring here. They're getting their third-line center.
Yep.
You don't pay a first and Easton Cowan for a third-line center. That to me is absurd. That's an absurd price to pay. And
that's what the prices are now. It used to be.
I'll believe that when I see it. I'll believe that when I see it.
It used to be a prospect and a first-round pick get you Jaromir Jagr at the deadline.
Right.
Now it's a third-line centerman, man.
And I'm not doing that if I'm the Leafs. That to me is because I think he's a good player. He's not a great player, and he's up there in age, and it's a big commitment. There's 3 years left after this.
That's 6.5.
Yeah, that's a big commitment.
Basically, what we've been talking about with Tavares about what his contract would look like is that. Right?
And
instead they're the same age, basically.
And you got to pay the assets to get him.
I guess he's younger. Yeah.
So you'd have, he's 2 years younger, I believe, but you'd have to give up the allegedly Easton Cowan. I'll believe that when I see it, that someone's going to pay that price. I'm not sure that that's going to happen.
I'm not sure either.
That's a huge price.
But that's what you do if you're St. Louis, right?
Sure, you can ask for it until you get to the deadline and you realize we're not getting that offer.
Well, and then you could just keep him, right?
Sure, if you want to. Yeah, exactly. Or if you really want to get off him. Now, he's got a full no trade, too. He is in control. Brayden Schenn is in control of this as well in terms of what he's willing to do, where he's willing to go. And it's not that I don't like the player or, in a perfect world, you wouldn't love for him to step in. If he's your third-line center, you got a pretty good setup there. Mm-hmm. It is a good setup. It's just you're taking on a lot of responsibility with the contract.
Yep.
In a cap world where the Blues are clearly trying to shed some money. It just doesn't seem like you should have to overpay for that. I do think there's an element of we're doing you a favor. We'll take on the rest of the years, so we're not going to pay you an enormous amount of money for it. Now, if they eat half the money, then it becomes different. If he's making $3.5 million,
paying more,
possibly, right? But it might be worth it because then you can also spend that other money elsewhere to keep different players.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's all a part of the cap crunch and the cap complication. I like Brayden Schenn. I like Scott Laughton. I like all these guys. They're good players. I think they'd be good additions. But I think to O's point, and this has always been clear, if they're going anywhere, it's because of the guys they already have. Like it's the main players they already have on this team. The
Yes.
4 core players, the 3 or 4 best defensemen, whoever starts
Yes.
in goal. That's what's going to drag you wherever
Auston
you're going to go.
Matthews series, a William Nylander game, a Mitch Marner period, a Stolars or a Wall series. Like that's the kind of stuff that has to happen if these guys are going to continue to do it. Not some guy they go and pick up off another team.
Right. What do you
He's there
think,
to help.
Jonas? Where are you at?
This is where we always
You're always
disagree.
all in. You're always all in.
Oh, well, it's been 60 years. I don't like it. Doesn't matter to me, but it's been
well,
60
let's
years.
hear you're all in.
Yeah.
Tell me you're all in. I'd love to
Let's
hear it.
hear you're all in.
Jonas from the bridge. Go ahead.
I'm not doing what people do to you. I'm saying I hear this, well, it's like, well, it should be on those guys, so you shouldn't add anyone. It's like, well, you can make the team better
Hey,
around
tell us
them.
your ads. Tell us your ads.
Go ahead, Jonas.
I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not just gonna like.
Well, how
names
comfortable
out
are
of a
you?
hat.
Like, we're
If
not.
that's the deal for Brayden Schenn.
Brayden Schenn, would you trade the 2026 first round pick and let's say whoever their third prospect
So
is?
let's say Ben Danford, because
Sure.
the idea is like those 3 are the ones that they get asked about.
Okay.
Danford, Minten, Cowan.
Okay.
So first and 26,
And Ben Danford
one of those guys, and Ben Danford. Would I do that?
for Brayden Schenn.
Are you saying 3 pieces like Easton Cowan?
No, no,
Ben
No.
Danford?
One of those 3
Oh, okay.
first, and then maybe something else if it's sweetened, right? For retention kind of thing.
Well, I get possible.
Would I do that? I think I'd look to some of these other guys. Like I just don't know the difference between him and I don't know whoever you want to say is enough to commit that long.
Right.
So no.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you're going Charlie Coyle shopping.
That's
You're
who.
going
That's
in-
the guy
you're
I think makes more sense. He's signed for only 1 more year. He's this
Right-handed
just
shot, too.
Right-handed shot. I think he's a better skater. Like he just brings a different dimension for me than Brayden Schenn with all the extra risk. Like, let me ask you guys this. So let's say you trade for Brayden Schenn.
Yeah.
Are you signing Tavares then? Like, is it depend? Like, do you
Absolutely.
want to have
No.
like then?
If I would
Schenn's
assume
going to be
that if-
34 in August. Like, do you want to have?
I would
Schenn?
assume if Brayden Schenn came on board, that would be the end of John Tavares' tenure,
Right.
unless he's looking to or willing to take considerably less.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's got to be considered by the least before
And
they
then
do
it's like,
anything.
are you better? Like, maybe you're just different. Maybe that's
Yeah.
the thing. Like, maybe you're just different. I
Well,
don't know.
yeah, it's like it's a 27, 28-year-old league. What's the example of teams winning with a 34-year-old centerman and a 35-year-old centerman?
Yeah. Like I
So-
wrote about Tavares earlier this week, and I wondered about Sam Bennett, who's like almost 6 years younger than, or maybe 5 years younger than Tavares. It's like, would I rather pay Sam Bennett 7 times, I don't know, 7, or Tavares 7 times 3? I don't know.
I'm taking Sam Bennett on that.
I might
one.
take Bennett, right? Like he's a lot younger. He's elevated.
You'd be crazy not to take Sam Bennett.
Right?
There
Yes.
isn't anybody on earth building their team that wouldn't take Sam Bennett.
Well, like I asked one of our stats guys, Dom at The Athletic, and he's like, offensively, it's a big loss. But so anyway,
All right, so maybe we found one guy, Dom from The Athletic. Dom would take Tavares. And it's not that Tavares
no, it's
isn't a good player. That's not the point. It's
different.
that Bennett has a completely different repertoire.
Exactly.
And the way that he plays the game. And I have been beating this drum for at least 5 years that their 4 best players up front, they're all wired the same way.
Yeah.
And I really think the core issue they've had for a long time is that problem, is that you look at the numbers, well, they all, offensively they can do this and expected that and this, and then it gets into a game where it's tight and it's a punch-in-your-face type contest, and who's going to go and do something crazy, and none of them are wired that way. Sam Bennett is. Like, Sam Bennett is wired that way. He is wired almost completely the opposite of John Tavares. Like, almost.
Yeah.
And yet is still productive, can put up numbers, not going to score at the same level that John is. But you also got to consider, what is John going to be scoring at in 2 years?
That's the key thing.
Or 3 years.
He'll be 35 in the fall.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Here's another one of my favorites, guys. Joe from the Bridge just fired it up on the text chain.
okay.
He says, "Go out and get Rantanen."
Oh, man.
Like,
Let's just get crazy
someone-
here. Let's get
can someone
LeBron. Get
Come on.
LeBron in here on skates.
I just want to know how the optics of that work. Go out and get Rantanen.
So that would presume that Carolina has decided we're flipping him. Like,
That's
we're
number one. Okay,
obviously
keep
that
going.
starts there. He's back on the marketplace.
Yeah.
Now you're going to go get Mikko Rantanen, who does not play center.
Nope.
And I guess then you're
Makes a
loading
lot of
up-
money.
Makes a lot of money. Now it's been retained through Chicago and all that, I believe, right? So there are maybe you can get it retained again, and he's making like $3 million.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll come back and explore that. Craig Berube is coming on the show. Craig's coming up in 5. We're not going to ask him that directly because he's not going to give us an answer on players around the league.
I wonder, though, if he gets a lot of the Jeff stuff where people come up to him on the street and to ask, like,
we'll ask him that. We'll ask him his experiences in Toronto on the street. Like how many people are talking hockey with him or double honking and saying, you got to go trade for this guy.
I remember Ron Wilson saying that like a fan came up to him and was like swearing at him one time.
Yeah.
But obviously that team was not very good.
That was Waffle Gate time. It was a different world. All right, Craig Berube coming up. The Leafs are back in action in New York tomorrow night. We'll catch up with the head coach next. OverDrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jonas Siegel in here of The Athletic. Craig Berube calling in here in just a moment. The Leafs in New York, I guess, for the game tomorrow night at the Garden. Leafs are 3-0 out of the gate here. It's been a pretty good start to the unofficial second half, post Four Nations. And we've actually got a cup replay tonight. Like, we've got a Stanley Cup final rematch down in Florida, and it doesn't seem like it's getting a ton of hype. Like Oilers-Panthers tonight.
It's getting a ton of hype for a different reason.
Because the Oilers are playing so poorly. Yeah.
And that's the wrong team to play when you're in a skid, man. Like
that is valid.
They could slap you around and say, you guys really stink right now. You're not even close. And I don't know. They got a lot of holes there, man. And people, like, that's the other thing. We go back to the contracts, all the money. Like, when you do that, everything surrounding, it's not like top dog stuff. So Draisaitl's going to be making a lot. McDavid makes a lot. It's like overboard, and you're just filling pieces in with guys. Like we said it yesterday, they had to get Travis Dermott off waivers up there.
Yeah, and you got to hit when you get the opportunity to do it, right? Now you look at it in Edmonton, people have turned on Arvidsson, completely turned on him. Like, they're just like, get rid of him, move on. It hasn't worked. Jeff Skinner,
too. They hate his guts.
Can't stand the guy out there. Like, it happens, and quickly. You get an opportunity, couple of offer sheets, things get thrown out of whack, and then you start to concern yourself with what's going to happen. But the beauty of a place like Edmonton is I'm sure people are going to let you know, right? I'm sure Chris Knobloch walks around Edmonton. People are saying, hey, what are you thinking of doing here? And I have to believe Craig Berube has had the same experience, right? He's now been in the city. Well, I mean, he's very familiar with the city. Obviously was a Leaf for a brief time back in the early 90s, but I got to think it's a little bit different than St. Louis, a little bit different than Philly in terms of Leaf fans chiming in with Craig and wondering what his plan is with the power play unit moving forward. Let's get to the bottom of that. Here he is, the head coach of the Maple Leafs, Craig Berube. How you doing, Craig?
Good. How are you guys?
We're doing well. Can you shed any light on that, your experience walking around the streets of Toronto? Any Leaf fans giving you tips on what you should do with the lineup or what?
Not really.
No. Oh, that's good.
No.
Okay, no. Good.
I actually, obviously there's people that, hi, and stuff like that, but not too much, to be honest with you. They're pretty quiet.
I love it. Were you surprised by that at all or what? That's good. That's good.
Maybe a bit, but I don't know. I don't go out much, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so, man. You just go right to the rink and back home and prepare for the next game, I guess. Well, that's good to hear because we had these visions of people yelling out their windows saying, Craig, keep it up. You guys are off to a good start, too. You guys are winning a lot of games. That probably helps, too. And I'm curious what you think of your group through 3 games, kind of post-Four Nations, where it was a long break. Some guys obviously were playing in the tournament, and you guys have gone 3-0. What do you make of how, the energy around your team over the last week and a half?
Yeah, the energy's good for sure after that break. There's things you can do better and clean up for sure. I think, I didn't like, the third period in Carolina against Carolina. There's always a period here and there that we could be better. First period in Boston the other night, not very good. But doing a lot of good things all around in general. But we could definitely get 60 minutes in there instead of 40. I think kind of that's where we're at right now with these 3 games.
Chief, do you think it's just a coin flip bringing your team back from a break? I mean, you see some teams that just think the joint out right now and everybody's losing it. Like, is it just one of those things where everybody does the right thing to come back and be ready to play, but sometimes you're just in a bit of a haze and you must be thankful that things are going your way right now?
Yeah, for sure I am. You never know. I think coming off just exactly what you said, I think it could go either way for a lot of teams, and I think it has. I thought when I came back, our practices were really good, which is important. I thought that our guys, right from the get-go, were good. They were engaged. They were energized in practice. We worked on a lot of stuff and got a lot accomplished. And obviously, I was concerned with Matthews and Marner, just from, were they going to be too tired? Were they emotionally going to be down because the emotion was so high in that game? But I've been happy. They've been fine, and they played well, and they brought the energy. I think last game showed that with the ice time that they got. I had to overplay them in that game with all the penalties we took and, killing and things like that. But they got it done. So I was pleased with them. So there's a couple days here in New York, resting will do them good.
Well, in terms of Auston, he hasn't scored a 5-on-5 goal, I think, in the last 9 games. I think he got to go back to the Columbus game, I believe, for the last time he scored 5-on-5. And you mentioned his energy's there. He's still playing a lot of minutes, defensively sound, chipping in with assists. But what are you seeing out of the goal scoring that maybe is the reason for this? What have you noticed of Matthews that has led to kind of a bit of a goal-scoring drought recently?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that's led to this. But the other night at Boston, I think he hit 2 posts. They're just not going in for him right now. But I think that he's doing a lot of real good things. He's been good defensively, killing penalties. He's been getting assists. I like his game overall. Yeah, there's always things that could be better. That's with every player, right? But the goals aren't going in, but it's not from a lack of opportunities or getting in there and creating opportunities. He's getting the chances. I truly believe he's going to come out of this thing and start scoring for sure. I think he's just got to stick with it. And the thing for me is just, you don't have to change a whole lot. Just keep playing good defense, keep doing your job, keep leading in those areas of the game for us. And for the team, the goals will come. That's really what I could tell him, because he is getting the chances. And, it's almost every game I see good opportunities that the puck could go in the net for him.
Craig, it's your first year, obviously, working with Brad Tree Living. I wondered how it works for you in past experiences, obviously Doug Armstrong in St. Louis, when it comes to the trade deadline. Is it something like the GM only comes to you when something is right at the end? What kind of conversations do you usually have with the GM ahead of the deadline?
Yeah, I think everybody's different. Every GM's different. But with Brad, we have conversations of what the team needs if needed. So, what area do we need to improve? Where can we improve the most? Those types of things I think are the important conversations to have. Not just going out there and getting a player just to get a player. It's like who could help and where do we need help? So those are the type of conversations I have with Brad.
Are you consistently as a coaching staff thinking about that playoff lineup? Do you put the cart before the horse and think, okay, you got to use a lot of different players based on injuries, players playing different positions? Obviously, you don't know who's going to be acquired between now and next Friday, but do you have a decent idea on what you think your Game 1 lineup could look like?
I honestly don't think about that yet. And, I won't for a while yet. I truly stick with game to game. And I'm focused on the Ranger game and putting our best, what I feel our best lineup is and what we need for that game in the lineup and where people will play. So that's what I'm focused on. Yeah. And then after that game, I'll think about the Pittsburgh game.
Perfect. Well, I guess
there's a lot of hockey. There's a lot of hockey.
I hear you.
We gotta stay in the moment here and focus on, the next game.
Well, I'm sure you're aware of, outside of, Leaf fans, and we're talking about you guys every day, and we've had this focus on winning the division. If you win the division, you get home ice, and maybe avoid the Florida teams in the first round. I guess that mentality you just spoke of, does it apply to that as well? Like, is there any messaging about team goals?
No, I think that everybody knows where the standings are, and they're focused on it. But it's not even focused on the standings. It's focused on yourself and doing the job and winning your games, and that'll take care of itself for the most part, is what I see. I mean, we don't need to be thinking about the division and standings. We just need to think about the next game and winning it.
Right.
And then the next one after that. And, things will take care of itself. And, would it be great to win the division? Why not? For sure it would be. And but we just got to focus on what we need to do that.
With Craig Berube, how beneficial is it to have both your goalies healthy and playing the way they've been playing?
Well, that's big. That's really big. And I think that, you look at some of these months, the schedule and how many games are crammed in there, back-to-backs and things like that, that's having two good goalies like we do and we've had and playing well is really important for us. So they've done an excellent job, these goalies, for us.
I want to ask you who's starting game one, but I'm not going to get the answer. I know we're not going to get the answer. Who's starting game one?
Well, that's a ways away yet.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm joking based on what we're talking about here with Craig Berube.
I know.
Morgan Rielly, you guys the cameras picked up what has now been somewhat of a well-noted conversation. I think when you were in Calgary, maybe in Edmonton before you started that Western Canadian trip, you and Mo were talking on the ice about, and he spoke to it afterwards, just talking about being loose and bringing offense, and it's clicked ever since that road trip. It's carried over, post Four Nations. What was that chat all about, I guess, and because it's triggered great offense. I mean, what have you seen out of Morgan the last 7 or 8 games?
Well, just a way more aggressive player, and a guy not thinking so much and just anticipating and playing the game on his strengths, like using his strengths. That's really what the conversation is about. I said, Mo, you read the game well. You got great offensive instincts. I probably held you back a little bit, wanting you to play good defense and not being a risky player. And this is not going forward being a risky player either, but you got to play the game a little bit more with a little bit more anticipation and being more aggressive is really what the conversation was about. It's hard to play this game if you're not aggressive and you're not on your toes. We all know that. It's too fast of a game. There's not a lot of time to think. So, anticipating and being aggressive is an important part of the game. And I think Mo's done it. He bought into it and he grabbed it and he's played really well for us lately.
Chief, that start of the hockey game a couple Saturdays ago with the fights off the bat, did you and that lunatic Gary Roberts ever have that idea to start a hockey game that you were going to go out there and cause some problems for another team?
We probably had a couple. I think I had some other teammates that probably we had a few of them too.
Yeah, I don't think you need a group chat, would you?
Dale Hunter.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I remember there was a few altercations in Philadelphia.
Go ahead.
There was a few altercations in Philadelphia where I had to pull Gary Roberts over. You were making some gestures at me, and I'm like, Robs, I think Chief wants to fight me, and there's just no way in hell it's going to happen. And he basically skated away and said, you're on your own. I don't know what to tell you. So that was an effective technique, I must say.
Robs and I fought in Toronto. He was playing for Calgary, and I was playing for Toronto. We had a fight that night in Toronto.
Yeah, that would have been a good tell. I'll bet you we could find that online, too. We might have to find that one. I don't think you guys would have needed a group chat back in the day to say we're going to maybe have a tilt tonight, huh?
We wouldn't need any group chats.
No, that's for sure.
No. I was probably as shocked as anybody when it went on, and then the next one, I was like, wow. This is a little different. You don't see this all the time, right?
No kidding, man.
So,
yeah, it was
but
a good
you
one.
know, it was great. It was great. I mean, I think you know, it was actually you know, very exciting for the game.
Sure was.
And, you don't see that very often, but you know, it got everybody in tune with it, and everybody enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was. Oh, there it is. We already found the YouTube clip. There's Gary and Craig going out at center ice, Maple Leaf Gardens.
Why did you guys find that necessary at Maple Leaf Gardens when you're buddies and teammates, for crying out loud? Like, I don't get that. Is it just one
because
of those things?
He need me. He need me. He won't say that, but he did.
Okay, it was his fault.
And that's why it happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll take your word for it.
Little bit of a dirty hit by him.
Okay. We'll have to ask him that next time we see him. I have a feeling he'll see it and hear it a different way, probably. But anyway,
Probably.
yeah, we appreciate you taking time. I know it's obviously a busy time of year, and you guys are back in action tomorrow night. So good luck in New York, and thank you for doing this today.
Yeah. Anytime. Thanks for having me on, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.
You got it. There's Craig Berube.
I guarantee you there was not any hint of a knee. There was nothing.
Man, he fought so angry, Craig Berube. Like, it was, you know, there's some graceful kind of like slow it down, gloves off, and let me pick my spot type fighters. And then Berube was just like a street fighter.
Yeah. He was going all in. Like, he was opening up the hatchet of and just look at this guy going after Robs.
He's like, you need
because
me.
Because he Oh, my God. Like, I guarantee you, like, those guys are very good friends. Like, I train with Gary Roberts every summer, and he's like, meet me at the golf course. Me, you, and Chief will play golf. Like, visit the cottage, friends. And they decided to absolutely tee off and fight each other at center ice.
Unreal. Yeah, unreal. And, like, Gary knew it was coming, too. He's like, all right. Like, that's the thing. Like, Roberts probably scored 50 that year and probably had 15 fights.
Yeah,
like
Roberts and Shanahan was that rare breed that would fight all the time and score 50.
Yeah,
Rick Tocchet.
Rick Tocchet was one. Jerome McGinley was there kind of at the end of it for sure.
What a brand of a player.
The best.
50 goal scorer that can absolutely beat the pills off you.
Yeah, those were old school power forwards, man. Like Keith Tkachuk.
Is there Keith Tkachuk. Is there a modern? Like, I don't even know what a modern day version of that is. Is there a modern day guy that fights all the time and rips home 50?
Not 50. Like
no, the only guys that
rip
home 50 are Matthews and Draisaitl and those guys.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a knee there from Robs.
He didn't go down, though. Like, Craig, he kind of was trying to finish his hit. Berube got out of the way but wasn't happy about it.
These guys.
Now they're just like, we're going to have to sort that out. Like Tom Wilson comes to mind, but there just aren't as many takers either. Like, that's the thing. There just aren't as many guys looking to fight in the game today. And that's a big part of it.
Don't you think the modern version is like the Tkachuk brothers?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you're probably right. Brady Tkachuk probably is. Matthew Tkachuk. Yeah, I guess so.
But they're not 50 goal scorers.
Nobody really scores 50. Like, score 50.
They're not 40 goal scorers.
Yeah.
One or two guys in the league score 50 now.
Right. Like, I think you got to drop it to, like, who scores 30 and gets in 5 fights.
And that's Tom Wilson.
That's probably the modern equivalent. 30 goals in 5 fights is the equivalent of, like, 40 goals in 15 fights 30 years ago.
They got to get Robs on tomorrow to ask him if he need him. I guarantee you he'll say he didn't.
He's going to say, I was finishing my hit and Berube got out of the way.
Yeah.
And it was his fault.
Berube ducked is what he's going to say.
Anyway, Leafs in New York tomorrow. We've got Pierre LeBrun coming up, our TSN Hockey Insider. Again, 8 days away from the trade deadline, and there's going to be a lot of action. It's just a matter of who and what and where they all go. So Pierre's coming up in about 20 minutes. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Pierre LeBrun in about 15 minutes. See, there was an insider altercation at the NFL Combine.
What?
Yeah.
I've never heard of such an altercation.
It's so funny. It's such
you're telling me LeBron and CJ throwing hands?
That's effectively what I'm telling you, without any hands being thrown naturally. And now it's going to become a Twitter war, and everyone's going to jump online.
Is it two high-profile guys?
Yeah. So Jordan Schultz is the one guy from Fox, and Ian Rappaport, who is really a massive NFL insider. It's like Schefter and Rappaport are the two big guys in the NFL. I guess it happened at a Starbucks in Indy where Schultz confronted Rappaport because Schultz was the one that reported that Brady and Matt Stafford had connected and were together, and Brady effectively reporting that Brady was pitching the idea that Stafford should come to the Raiders. And Rappaport came over the top, basically saying that's junk, didn't happen. They happened to run into each other.
Randomly.
Exactly. So now Schultz is all bent out of shape that Rappaport basically took a sky dump all over his report, and then they got into it with a verbal altercation.
How do we know
Starbucks? Because it got reported on. Someone tweeted it out, and then eventually.
But how does that get tweeted out?
Yeah.
Is there some guy in line that is an NFL freak, and he's like, "I just saw two insiders yelling and screaming about a report." Like, give me a break.
And then again, it got reported on that that Rappaport brought like NFL security into it or something, which is pretty lame. Like, because now what you're getting is old school reporters saying like, we used to get in fights back in the day and no one knew about it. No one should know about it. Why is it getting out? If you have an issue with each other,
well,
just
who
deal
threatened
with
to fight? Like Rappaport? Or
no, I think Schultz was the one again bent out of shape, and then Rappaport allegedly brought in NFL security, and then it got out, and now it's a thing.
If you're going to get involved in an old school man-on-man conversation where words are exchanged, and then you're going to exit that conversation and act like a crybaby and start calling NHL security and stuff like that, you got no stones,
lame, man.
It's
lame.
No, it's 45 under at the no stones open.
Yes, and speaking of golf, because Alan Shipnuck tweeted out, like, quote, tweeting the story, and Shipnuck's a guy in the golf world that kind of agitates people, and, he reports on a lot of different things, and I don't think he's got a lot of friends.
He reports on Greg Norman.
Yeah, and I don't think he's got a lot of friends either, like in the media world. Anyway, he tweeted that Tim Rosefort once put him in a headlock in the Masters press room. And he said, no report was filed because that's weak. Deal with this stuff man to man. So I love that. Now,
dude, Tim Rosefort, God bless his soul.
Yeah.
He seems like I walked with him following Tiger Woods at Augusta National. He was the nicest guy in the world.
Right.
I can't see him ever putting someone in a chokehold.
Which makes you wonder, what did Alan Shipnuck do or say that led to Rosefort saying, I'm putting you in a headlock and I'm going to try to beat you up? Yeah. And at the Masters, of all places, where everyone's walking on eggshells that you're going to get kicked out of there for life. And he brings up a good point. Like, why is NFL security involved? But this is your brethren, Jonas. These are reporters, right?
I've seen these things happen.
You've seen reporters go at it before?
Like from the same outlets, like arguing
about what? About a scoop or about
someone stealing like information or?
I think there's some of that. There's competition for stories, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think when reporters, correct me if I'm wrong, take it personally, and I think what happened here is when someone comes over the top and rains on the parade of your report. Right? Some big report, this is what happened, and another guy goes, that's a joke, didn't happen. You know what I mean?
Well, how did it work? Do you remember? Well, of course you remember the Shohei thing with the plane, and somebody reported that he was on his way to Toronto, and then
I think John Morosi.
Is that who it was?
Yeah.
And then I think was it Jeff Passan came in and was like, actually, he's not.
Yeah, and they were a little bit more sensitive to it because they didn't want to bury him necessarily.
No. John's he's a great guy. He's a reputable guy in both hockey and baseball. And they just got, I don't know how that went down, but he got that one wrong.
Yeah, that was a swing and a miss, and it hurt. And because that added legitimacy to the story. Like, we were taking hits like, how could you go, how you guys were talking about it. I'm like, no kidding. John Morosi reported he's on a plane.
That's one of your best
We had Flight Tracker.
Yeah, I think that was a great episode.
It was great.
Personally, I think I stand by that one.
On.
That's on your Hall of Fame.
I totally agree. And it's completely erroneous, the whole story.
I think you talked about it for like an hour.
Oh, we were on it nonstop. Like no commercials.
We did 3 hours of Ohtani. I had security police officers at the airport confirming that he was landing.
That's right.
But I wanted to call those guys back and say, what the hell were you talking about?
Right.
Because he wasn't on a bird. It was some rich guy from the Shark Tank.
Yeah, it was exactly who it was. and we were canceling guests. Like we were nonstop, like breaking news. We felt like we were like on the election desk, basically. Like we're calling it for the Jays. Shohei Ohtani is on his way up here. He's going for sushi that night.
The best with the King
Everything.
Daddy Topper was the other pitcher who made a 20
Kikuchi, I think, wasn't it?
Kikuchi had a 20-person rezo at a sushi place, and that sent the city over the edge.
That was the tipping point. That Kikuchi was in town waiting for him.
Yeah. And somebody also with credibility sent that one out there.
Yes.
Hearing Kikuchi's got a 20 spot at a high-end sushi place. Get ready, folks. It's happening.
Yeah.
And then we were really horned up, and we went down in flames.
Yeah, that one hurt, man. In retrospect, that was too bad because it would have been just such a great way to culminate what was a great show, as if he actually landed and
it's better that he
signed with the Jays. Yeah, it turns out maybe it was better. All right, hour 2 coming up. Pierre LeBrun will join us. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.